What's up, nation? It's your host, Kenneth Tiberius Clark, and you guys are listening to another fun episode of the Sportsclusive podcast. Today's topic: in every sport, we have stars and we have role players. But how big is the gap? Like that's a big question. Like, how huge is the gap between star and role player? Because of course we have our phenoms, right? We have our people that since middle school they was the man, right? Our phenoms. We have our LeBron James, our Bryce Harpers, our Peyton Mannings, right? I mean, these people, once again, from day one, they were always, whether it is intelligence or athletic ability, they were always significantly better than their peers. So them being a star is not surprising. But unfortunately, in sports, everybody's journey doesn't look the same. It doesn't look like that. Some people have to rise up the ranks, or how do we say it? Some people have to get it out the mud, so to speak. It posed another question, an even bigger question. Do athletes become stars based off of just pure ability or pure talent? Or is it opportunity that makes the star? Right? Is it the opportunity to show their talent? Right? Because I'm convinced that you have a lot of guys that probably are studs, but they just never got the chance to show off their ability. So, fun topic. What I decided to do is I was able to pull up 3 noteworthy examples that can fit into this and kind of show us that, hey, maybe it is guys just need a chance, right? Everybody's not going to just come, especially professional sports. Everybody's not going to come into a league, come into the NBA, come into the MLB, come into the NFL, and just be superstars from day one. Some people need to mature, and some people need the right environment. So first, I wanted to look into the NBA. I wanted to pull up two more recent, more modern examples, right? Because we can jump to the past, but I wanted to look at somebody more recent. So 2 players came to mind: Pascal Siakam, who's playing for the Toronto Raptors, and Lauri Markkanen, who is now playing for the Utah Jazz. Looking at Pascal Siakam first. Now, we all know, he's been playing with Toronto for years. He's been there since 2016. So he's kind of these NBA guys, they come in at 18, 19 years old. So 8 years there, these guys are only like 24, 25, right? So it's not like the NFL guys are coming in already in their early to mid 20s. So he's been there for a while. Also, even there when they won the championship in 18, 19, right, where Kawhi Leonard came there for one season as a hired assassin, won them a championship, and then left the next offseason and went to play for the Clippers. But I look at his process. Right now, we already knew Pascal Siakam was a talented kid, as did Nick Nurse. The year they won a championship, he won Most Improved Player. That was the year where he kind of made the jump to people like, okay, well, maybe we could possibly build around this guy in the future. I want to say his first year, in 2016, he had 4.2 points. Right, the year they won the championship, 2018, 2019, he averaged 16.9. Right, had 3.1 assists, 6.9 rebounds. So he became a pretty good number 2 option. I guess you say number 2. Kyle Lowry's more like a number 3. The next year, once again, Kawhi leaves, right? So Nick Nurse, they're expecting to possibly play another year with Kawhi Leonard at the helm. But he leaves. He sends Nick Nurse the message saying, I'm going home, right? We know Kawhi Leonard is a LA guy from LA County. And Nick Nurse did something that I thought was so genius, and I think really shows that you buy into a young player. He pulls Pascal Siakam aside at Fred VanVleet, and he says, there are 20 plus shots up for grabs. All right, this is after Kawhi says he's leaving. And they say, hey, we ready for it. And obviously Pascal Siakam is the one that makes that jump. Now that he gets put in a spot to where he's at the helm, he goes from averaging 16.9 points to 22.9 points, 1 steal, 3.5 assists, and 7.3 rebounds. Not only did he lead his team in scoring, he made his first All-Star game. Honestly, only been up from there. He's made, I want to say, about 2 to 3 All-Star games. And then we fast forward to this season. I mean, he's kind of balling right now, right? The 2022-2023 season. He's averaging 24.8 points, right? 9.3 rebounds and 7.7 assists. So he's in his bag, but he said it. He says he wants to be a superstar now. So when you look at Pascal Siakam's situation, obviously he was trending upwards, right? We knew he's going to be a good player, but does he get the opportunity to come into his own if Kawhi stays? I believe in progress blockers. I do. I believe that guys, no matter how talented they are, sometimes they can overshadow guys that have just as much, if not more, ability. Right. I can go on and on about this topic. Celtics, you had Kyrie Irving and Jason Tatum, right? I feel like he was a progress stopper for that team as well. Once again, Pascal Siakam has made the jump. And don't get me wrong, there was some bumps in the road, right? He struggled in the playoffs that very next season where he was the man. You know, went from 22, averaging 22 during the regular season to averaging, I want to say 15 to 17 points in the postseason. You know, and he didn't have a great outing in the bubble in the playoffs. But he learned from it, and obviously now he's rebounding. And we look up now, this kid's 25, 26 years old, and he's just entering his prime and possibly looking at pushing himself up the board to be top 10, top 15 player in the NBA, right? So that's Pascal Siakam. Another cool example, and this one is fresh, right? This isn't a few years. This is something completely unexpected. Good friend of mine's named Swan Dons. He's on Rooted in Sports with me. Big Chicago fan. So in 2017, Chicago drafted a kid named Lauri Markkanen, right? He's originally from Finland. You know, he came in pretty good shooter, big man. I want to say 6'11", power forward, right? Stretch four, right? You could, if you want to play small ball, you could put him at the 5. But he, spends his first 4 years in Chicago. Then last season he plays with Cleveland, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Obviously they make it to the play-in tournament. They lose to Atlanta. This offseason, they have this big, humongous trade for Donovan Mitchell, Utah, the Utah Jazz. They pretty much cleaned house. They traded Rudy Gobert to Minnesota, and Donovan Mitchell was next. He was, maybe we thought it was a possibility he was going to stay there, but he didn't. So they traded him to Cleveland. In return, Lauri Markkanen was part of that package of players leaving Cleveland, going to Utah. So you're thinking like, man, Utah is not going to be a good team at all. They're not going to be competitive. They're going to get ran off the court every single night. And I guess Lauri Markkanen was like, this is my shot. This is my chance. Been their number one option. And I'm not talking about just their number one option. I'm talking about he's looked like a legitimate number one option in the NBA, right? And then you look at his numbers. I mean, his career high before this was 18.7 points per game. And that was in 2018. That was his second year in the NBA. Look at this year. He's averaging 21.8 points, 2.2 assists, 8.6 rebounds. He's been pretty damn good, right? And I want to say to Utah, now granted, you guys are seeing this at another time, but at this point, Utah they're playing pretty good. I want to say 7-5 record at this time. So they're definitely performing better than what people think so, what people think that they would have. Looking at players like Lauri Markkanen and Pascal Siakam, it kind of takes me back. I saw Iman Shumpert. I was about to say Kawhi Leonard. I saw Iman Shumpert on an interview, and he said something that I never forgot. He talked about playing with other star players, but he said something key. He talked about some players have the green light to take certain shots. He kind of alleviated to some guys getting pigeonholed into being role players or fitting certain roles. Maybe this guy's going to be a defensive guy. So everybody, and I think he said something along the line. He also said something along the lines of, if I got the green light, I could score 20 points a game, but I didn't have that green light. They wanted me to play defense and always cover, always guard the next team's best man. He was, Iman Shumpert was a pretty damn good defender. So when I look at that, I'm like, man, like the NBA, it's a lot of talented guys in the NBA. They just don't have the green light to take those shots. Or to drive the ball down court. They're programmed, I hate to use that word, but they're programmed or are taught or trained that, hey, this is the man on the team. If you get the ball open court, right? If if nobody's in front of you, maybe you take it, but you need to pass the ball to him, right? You need to everything needs to go through this guy. But you see situations like this where players get that chance and you're like, shit, I'm taking it. I know what Lauri Markkanen is. And then obviously Pascal Siakam, it has slowly but surely become one of the better young players in the NBA. So that's my NBA example. Right now, when looking at the NFL, I really don't. The NFL is not even complicated. I mean, we're talking about arguably one of the greatest athletes, one of the greatest competitors of all time, the greatest quarterback of all time, and Tom Brady. He was 6th-round draft pick. Barely, I don't want to say barely a starter, but, he definitely had his ups and downs at Michigan. They wanted to start Drew Henson over him. So he had to go through that. I think Brian Griese was there too. So he had to really fight to get on the field at Michigan. And then when he gets into the NFL, he's a 6th-round draft pick. I want to say 199th pick, somewhere up in there. Seven quarterbacks drafted over him. And he gets drafted to a New England team with Drew Bledsoe. And I don't know if people kind of we've looked at Tom's greatness that we've forgotten how good Drew Bledsoe really was. Drew Bledsoe was a very solid quarterback. He led New England to a Super Bowl in 1996. They lost to Green Bay. And, Drew Bledsoe gets hurt in 01. And Tom Brady gets in, and the rest is history. And watch this. Make no mistake about it. There was definitely a process for Tom Brady. It wasn't like he came in and, he threw for 50 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And no, it was definitely a long process. He started out really legitimately as a game manager, but he was very clutch in key moments, and he made big throws in key moments. But he deferred to that defense and that running game. Look at what he's transformed into now. First of all, Tom Brady's still playing. It's 22 years. He's 45 freaking years old. And he's still playing and still actually looking pretty good. He has 7 championships. Or is it 8? He has so many championships, I literally forget. 7 or 8, right? He has that many championships. I mean, it's just crazy to think about where this player started versus where he's at now. He's probably one of the few NFL quarterbacks I can say that he's gotten better with age. Started his career as a game manager, but has transformed into a high volume passer. And I mean, and once again, so on and so forth. Sometimes you think about the different possibilities. Would he be the same player if he went to another franchise? If he went to another team? Let's say he gets drafted to Indianapolis in the 7th round. You think he's going to get the opportunity to play with Peyton Manning there? I don't think so. Right place, right time. Like I said, it's not just opportunity, it's environment as well. It's just kind of something to think about, right? Would Tom Brady, if he goes to another team, another franchise with anything less of a foundation that he had? Bill Belichick was great. Robert Kraft, great owner. He had a slew of experienced veteran players around him. Would he have become, or would he have been nurtured into the player that he is today? I don't know that. But I know that he had his opportunity. He was prepared for it. They say he's always been a student of the game. And when he finally got his opportunity, he took advantage of that. So if he didn't get that opportunity, I can't sit here and look you guys in the face and say that Tom Brady would be Tom Brady if he didn't get that opportunity. Another example of opportunity. Last but not least, for my MLB fans, we got a kid, well, not a kid, he's a grown man now, but Jose Altuve, probably one of the greater examples when it comes to opportunity over pure talent. Anyone that knows anything about him, obviously been playing for the Astros his whole career. Short guy, 5'6", in 07, I think he was 16 years old in 07, goes to trial for the Houston Astros. They turn him away once or twice, saying he's too short. But Al Padrique, long time, player, coach, right? Just big baseball guy, big baseball presence. I want to say Jose Altuve gets his father talks him into going back, and because they also doubted his age or something like that. Long story, but I know he goes back and Al Padrique meets him and he says, "Hey man, can you play?" And he says, "I'm gonna show you." And obviously he wows that guy, and Al Padrique goes to bat. He lobbies for him with that front office and to sign him. Ultimately they do, and it's funny because I guess when they asked him what they liked about him, first of all, I think he lied about his height because Jose Altuve is like 5'5", 5'6". He lied and said he was like 5'8", 5'9", right? So, they want some of these MLB players are tall. I'm talking about 6'11", 6'7", 6. I think Aaron Judge is like 6'8", 6'9". So some of these guys are big. And obviously Jose Altuve, very diminutive stature. They had doubts about what he can do, but I guess when they asked him about him, he said, "Oh, I love his bat and I love his speed." But he was he wanted to focus on the skills as opposed to the size. And ultimately, once again, they gave Jose Altuve a shot. And I mean, I want to say he was in their farm system for about 4 years. So I don't think he made it to the majors till about 2011, but he was playing pretty damn good ball in their farm system, playing for a slew of different minor league teams. I even think he played out here in Lancaster, California. I mean, California guys. I think he played in Lancaster, California, just moved all around, but he ultimately made it to the majors. And I mean, he was able to make a success of himself. A big thing that stood out to me about Jose Altuve, when Al Padrique comes to him, and I guess they offered him a $15,000 contract, which can't be much, especially in the baseball world, even for entry-level guys. He thought they was going to play hardball with him, right? No pun intended. But as opposed to giving him pushback and saying, asking for more money, he said he's going to sign the contract. And he said, I just want a chance. And that was big to me. There are a lot of athletes in any sports all across the world that just want an opportunity to show what they can do. But once again, you got to be prepared for that moment. Fast forward to, looking at Jose Altuve's career as a whole. He's an 8-time All-Star, AL MVP, ALCS MVP. He got a Golden Glove, 3-time AL batting champion, and he just won his second World Series with the Astros. If Al Padrique never goes to bat for him, if he never lobbies with the Astros front office to sign this kid, do we get Jose Altuve, who's become one of the greatest batters of all time? I want to say 23 postseason hits, 23 postseason home runs, I want to say. Second in MLB history. If that doesn't happen, do we get this guy here? This phenomenal talent. For all my people, right? On every team, there is some, let me backtrack and say this. I'm a huge proponent for roles. Some guys are role players, or jags, just a guy. Or my favorite term, lunch pail guys. We call them lunch pail guys because they just go to work, right? Some people are that. But for every jag or for every lunch pail guy, there's somebody buried on that bench, a caged lion, a caged beast, just waiting to be unleashed. For you guys, my athletes all around the world at all levels that maybe you're down on yourself or you feel like you'll never get your opportunity. Just be prepared because it could be that one chance, unexpected chance at the blink of an eye that can ultimately propel you to greatness. Opportunity over talent, baby. Talk to you guys soon.